So I've been thinking about alcohol a lot lately because I'm finally far enough away from it to see clearly. For 30 years I drank, not every day, but I binge drank consistently, culturally, socially, emotionally. 19,000 drinks, give or take. Yeah, I did the math. That's a lot of nights I can't remember. A lot of mornings piecing together what I said, what I did, whether I embarrassed myself. A lot of money that could have been spent better. But here's what no one talks about. Alcohol works till it doesn't. So where did it start? So in the beginning, family gatherings where the adults had drinks. I got a little snowball at Christmas time, avocado and lemonade, if you know, you know. Sweet, harmless. It was just once a year. It felt grown up. It felt special, fun. Fast forward teen years, I got drunk for the first time, threw up, said never again. You know how that goes. By 18, alcohol wasn't just a part of my social life, it was my social life. Investment banking in London in my 20s, corporate culture where drinking was just currency, bars attached to office buildings, lunches that turned into long afternoons, after work drinks that turned into late nights, that turned into early mornings. I'd shower, change and walk straight back into the office and do it all again 3-4 times a week for years. I was highly functional and numb and I didn't even know it. But what was I numbing? Looking back now, I can see what alcohol was actually doing. It wasn't necessarily about the taste or the buzz or even the social aspect, though they were all part of it. It was about permission to relax, to be loud, to be soft, to feel things I didn't know how to feel or process when I was sober. You see, I grew up in a society and an environment where mental health wasn't part of the conversation at all. Strength meant silence, and emotions were something that you managed privately. My mum had schizophrenia, my grandma had Alzheimer's. My brother has lived with severe mental illness most of his teens. So I kind of learned early, hold it together, keep it moving, don't make things harder by falling apart, don't be a burden, or don't add burden. I did my best, but now looking back, I can see I was actually dissolving slowly, quietly into wine glasses, champagne flutes, gin and tonics. Alcohol let me feel free. It let me feel without having to admit I was feeling. It let me be vulnerable without calling it vulnerability. It let me escape without looking like I was running. Until my body started keeping score. Something shifted. Blackouts got more frequent, gaps, conversations I couldn't recall, moments I'd cringe at later, or worse, moments I wouldn't remember at all. Then came the anxiety, nausea plus anxiety, where you replay every interaction, every word, everything that might have been too loud, too awkward, or too much. I started thinking, this doesn't feel like fun or freedom anymore. It's feeling like torture. The final wake-up call, January 2023. I end up in hospital with arrhythmia. 3 separate episodes where I genuinely thought I was dying of a heart attack. Scans came back clear, but my body wasn't lying. It was perimenopause, it was years of heavy drinking, it was decades of suppressing emotions, pushing through, pretending I was fine. But my body said enough. And for the first time, I listened. What changed when I let go? I didn't quit cold turkey, trust me. I just started choosing differently. The more I chose not to drink, the more I noticed. My sleep improved, my energy got better, my heart symptoms vanished. No more wasted days in bed recovering, no more regrets, more time, more money, better consistency with food, exercise, productivity, relationships, all of it. But it wasn't just physical, relational, it was internal as well. Because without alcohol, I really had to sit with myself for the first time. No numbing, no escaping, no softening the edges. And at first, that is uncomfortable. But slowly I realized I can do this. I can handle this. I can feel this. I don't need to run anymore. Journaling helped a lot. It became cathartic, therapeutic, a way to process what I'd been avoiding for years, the emotions I'd been suppressing practically my whole life. Grief, anger, fear, loneliness. They were still there, but they didn't destroy me, and I could face and work through them in a way I never had before. I survived them, and in surviving them, I started to trust myself. I realised something as well. My life experience has made me strong, resilient, compassionate, emotionally intelligent, empathetic. But historically, I'd given most of that away to others and not to myself, at my own expense. Not anymore though. Self-love, baby. Where I'm at now, it's been just over 3 years since I started reducing my alcohol. Not perfectly, not without temptation, but definitely intentionally. Yeah, I had drinks during this time, but every time the contrast gets clearer. It just hits differently now. Fewer drinks, hit faster, hit harder. The next day I feel it even more than I used to. Brain fog, low energy, just ugh, the whole day just gone. I can't take it anymore. It's a lot. I've had too many lost days. I'm not here for it. What's changed most though isn't the behaviour, it's the relationship. I don't think about drinking like I used to. I don't plan around it like I used to. I don't negotiate with myself about when or how much or whether I deserve it. That was just mentally exhausting. The desire does still come, but it doesn't stay long. It has less power. And for the first time in my life, I did last Christmas and New Year's alcohol free. And quite a few holidays over the last couple of years with no alcohol as well. That is massive for me. Literally the first time, because they were always just automatic yeses. Didn't matter what time my flight was, morning, night. The first thing I was doing when I hit the airport was having a drink or 3 on the plane. More on arrival, even more. Like, that was just part of what I did. No matter where I was and who I was with, it was my way of life. But now I choose. What I learned about alcohol and wish I'd learned sooner. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, first of all, but I am here to share what I learned, because for most of my life, I actually thought alcohol was harmless. We didn't know then what we know now. So I just saw it as a bit of fun, a social lubricant, something that helped me connect, relax, feel free. But based on information, personal belief and research, that's not it. Alcohol shrinks your brain, especially the parts responsible for learning and memory. It disrupts your sleep. You might pass out, but it's not restorative sleep. It prevents, or at least slows down massively, fat loss and muscle gain. Because once that alcohol's in you, it takes priority over everything else. Your body's trying to get rid of it, metabolize it over everything else. It's inflammatory. It affects your skin, your gut, your joints, your mood. It's got a hell of calories with no nutritional value whatsoever. Just pure empty calories. Long term, it increases your risk of cancer, liver disease, heart issues, cognitive decline. I didn't know most of that when I was really drinking, but now I do. I can't unsee it. But like I say, I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just telling you what I know now, and I just really encourage you to do your research. But I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, it's because you know there is an issue with your drinking. You're drinking too much. Obviously, it's your life, it's your choice. You gotta do you. Just make an informed decision. Alcohol wasn't all bad. It got me through seasons I didn't know how to process yet. And it gave me fun times, stories, connections. But it did cost me energy, peace, clarity, self-respect. And I don't want to live like that anymore. It's not about restriction though. I don't feel restricted. I feel more aligned, more at peace. I know what life with alcohol feels like, and now I know what it feels like without it. This version of me is clearer, calmer, more in control. I don't just get through life anymore. I move through it with intention. I don't need alcohol to soften the edges anymore, because I've learned how to hold myself properly. I know who I am without it, and I love her more. So what was the silence I inherited? I wasn't suppressed by just one thing. There's layers to this. Society's stigma around mental health, Jamaican culture's stoicism, English culture's stiff upper lip, the era I grew up in, the times I grew up in. Therapy and counselling wasn't even mentioned those times. And in my home, obviously everyone knew about my mum, and it's not that it wasn't talked about, it was, but it was more pragmatically than emotionally. And there's what my grandma said. I don't know, I must have been about 10, maybe. The only thing anyone in the family ever really said to me directly about my mum's health: always love your mum. She's not well, but love her anyway. And I know what she meant. She was trying to give me a framework for compassion, a way to understand something confusing and painful. What I heard, what I internalized, was something different. Her pain matters, yours doesn't. Your job is to love her anyway. I know that's not what my grandma was saying, but that's what I carried. And no one corrected me because nobody asked me how I was doing. For a long time, I thought I was to blame for her illness. I'd been told she had postnatal depression, and so I thought I did it, I caused it. It wasn't until years later I learned she'd had several miscarriages before me, that the depression started then, not with me. Love them anyway, and what it cost me. That sentence, love her anyway, it didn't just apply to my mum. That became the blueprint for how I loved everyone. I had a tendency to put other people's feelings before mine. Their situations, their circumstances, show up for them no matter what. Listen, hold space, be there, even if you're drowning. Love them anyway, even if it costs you. I became, for my friends, what I subconsciously now think I wish someone would be for me. I gave them copious amounts of space to vent, be heard, be seen, be understood, because that was how I showed love. But no one was doing that for me, not nearly as much. So I kept giving and giving, not because I was a pushover, but I was conditioned by now. I learned early other people's pain came before mine. Or should I say I internalized that, because like I said, I wasn't taught that. That's how, for some reason, I internalized it. So I abandoned myself over and over and over to show up for others. I became codependent, and I didn't even know it. I only learned that word 2-3 years ago. Being there for others made me feel worthy, made me feel valuable again, but I didn't even consciously know that. So it meant I showed up in the world with no real boundaries, no standards, because how could I set boundaries when I'd internalized that other people's pain came before mine? How could I have standards when I believed my role was to love people anyway, even if it cost me? I didn't see it as self-abandonment at the time. I just saw it as being kind, loving, understanding, being there for people. But now I know what I was actually doing was erasing myself to make space for others. And like I say, that played out everywhere. And I guess alcohol was one of the ways I coped with the weight of it all. The shame that made me hide, another layer that I'm only really starting to fully own now. I carried shame about my mum's schizophrenia, about my family's mental health history, about what people might think if they knew. Because I had internalized that mental health was shameful, that vulnerability was weakness, that made my family history less than. So I felt less than. And that shame didn't just suppress my emotions, it made me hide myself. So I didn't show up fully, not really. I was afraid people would judge me if they knew, afraid they'd pity me, afraid they'd see and treat me differently. I was afraid a potential partner might think, I don't really want to get involved with her. She might go mad. Or we might have kids that aren't mentally well because of her background. The fear was real and it was heavy. So I kept it moving, I kept it hidden. I performed strength whilst carrying a lot of weight alone. I didn't own my story, I buried it, which meant I buried parts of myself as well. Ultimately, I just didn't show up fully in life as much as I could, with friends, relationships, in life. Not as much as I could have. The fear I didn't name. It wasn't just fear of rejection or judgment, it was fear of abandonment. My mum didn't raise me. I didn't meet my dad until I was 21. I was raised by my grandparents who showered me with love, and I love them dearly. But they didn't give me the emotional space that I needed, because I don't think they had the tools or the language for it either. Not on an emotional level. So again, I internalized early, I'm on my own. Emotionally, I have to cope myself. And that became my MO. My hyper-independence wasn't just about strength, it was about safety. Because if you don't let anyone in, they can't leave. If you don't show them the real you, they can't reject the real you. If you handle everything yourself, you don't have to risk being let down. You don't have to be too much for anyone. At this point, I didn't just believe asking for help was weakness. I believe people leave, so I have to be able to survive without them. The distrust wasn't conscious, it was protective. I know that now. So I kept it moving. Like I said, I stayed surface level, hyper independent. But from the time I got my own place at 16, my mum would call me a lot, like all day, multiple times a day. I'd sit, listen to her, console her, comfort her, encourage her, reason with her. I won't go into it, but there were some dark things she would say, which would often include deleting herself. I became her emotional support, not because I necessarily chose to, but, you know, she's my mum. I love her. I've got a duty of care. And who else did she have? I got conditioned. I got used to being the one that holds space, who listens, who encourages, who empowers. I now know, another term, I was a parentified child. And the thing about being a parentified child is you don't go to your mum with your issues. How could I? She wasn't well. So I knew I couldn't go to her for sound advice like 99% of the time. So I just didn't go to anyone, really. I learned to hold most things myself, suppress things, handle things quietly. And that, again, became my MO. So why am I speaking now? I'm done hiding. I'm done being fearful of being judged, looking weak, or like I hold it together. I'm owning it. This is me owning it. All of it. My mum's schizophrenia, my brother's mental illness, my own journey, the suppression, the self-abandonment, the alcohol, all of the unlearning, rebuilding. Not because I want pity, because I want freedom, and I want to help you. I want to help the old me, because I know there are people struggling, because I know there are people living the same way I did, shrinking, hiding, not showing up fully, because they're ashamed of something they had no control over, fearful of judgment and rejection. You are not your circumstances. Just because you grew up in silence doesn't mean you have to stay silent. Just because you suppressed yourself for years doesn't mean you can't reclaim yourself now. Just because your mum has schizophrenia doesn't mean you're less than. You can live your best life. You can show up fully. You deserve that. And the people who matter won't judge you. They'll see you, really see you, and love you. Those who mind don't matter. Those that matter don't mind. I wish I'd had that mentality from the start, but you know, I got it now, and that's what counts. So why am I adding my voice? Mental health is talked about more than ever now. Definitely more than when I was growing up. And I'm glad. Glad it's not as taboo. I'm glad people have more language now for how they're feeling. I'm glad therapy, counselling isn't shameful anymore, it's not hidden. But I also know that there's still people in certain cultures, generations, certain families who are living the way I did, in silence, in suppression, carrying weight they don't know how to put down. So if I can add my voice to the conversation, if sharing my story helps even one person feel less alone, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. If I can help even one person feel less alone, feel like they're allowed to take up space, then it's worth it. Mental health advocacy isn't just important to me, it's personal. Because I know what it's like to grow up without it, and I really don't want that for anyone else.